Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News channel. It's a Mark Carney smackdown on Donald Trump. Biggest tariff trade grudge match in human history, the likes of which we have never seen before. In this corner, with bad hair, too much makeup, the orange orangutan. And over in the other corner, way over there, on the left, the businessman with a plan. Mark, the maple madman from the north, Carney. Oh my gosh. Today, it just keeps getting stranger. What Carney did, not strange at all, but a definite shift in tone today and yesterday. It really started yesterday. But man, he just hauled off and just let Trump have it. In a Mark Carney reserved kind of way. And he's upstaging the man in the White House right now because of what he did today. So we're going to show you all of that, but not to be outdone, or he was outdone. It is just, excuse my language, I'm just quoting the President of the United States today. Can't believe I'm saying this. Today, Donald Trump made headlines by saying from the Oval Office, "I could take a shit." That's the way it is on this April 23rd, 2026. We have more important things to speak about, but that's what's dominating the news. Man, are we in trouble. Be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And this show is going to go all over the place tonight. We have everything from not locker room talk, but bathroom humor, although it wasn't supposed to be funny, from the White House, and all the way from that to opera. We're going to explore what it really means to be a country. Differing views, divergent views, as Canada remains under this existential threat from its best friend and biggest trading partner, the United States of America, via Donald J. Trump. Today, Mark Carney finally taking the gloves off. To hell with the elbows. He finally dropped the gloves. I think some Canadians are probably happy to see this. He's going to score points on the home front with this, I think, overall. Although some people want to bend the knee and just take it up the you-know-what. But no, today, after a day after Howard Lutnick was put on the hot seat for being, disrespectful and insulting to Canadians in that hearing yesterday, Carney is saying the United States, of course, would not dictate terms on the high-stakes free trade negotiations that are scheduled to begin later this summer. But he says that Canada is ready to wait for things to kind of simmer down and they can proceed with their negotiations with Mexico, United States. Well, we'll sit back and wait, he says. But Canada's not just going to sit there and take notes and be dictated to. Here we go. I've got a clip of him here. And I'll show you what he said. It's the big showdown before the smackdown, as everybody starts ramping up the rhetoric in preparations for the U.S.-Canada side of the Kuzma trade talks. Here we go with Mark, the Maple Madman Carney.
Marco? Hey, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Marco Vigliotti, Politics. I want to ask about the status of the trade talks because I'm admittedly a bit confused. The Americans, when I talk to them, they don't really kind of understand where this talk of an entry fee is coming from, saying we've been very, very clear with the Canadians what our trade irritants are. Yep. You had Howard Lutnick, you had Jameson Greer yesterday doubling down that dairy and alcohol in particular were huge barriers to restarting trade talks. And Jameson Greer even threatened retaliatory actions if you don't convince your provincial colleagues to remove some of those bans on U.S. liquor. So I got to ask, considering yesterday you said, I'm not backing down, we're not going to make any concessions to get Americans to come to the table. What's the game plan here? Or what are you prepared to do to get Americans at the table here? Or are you comfortable with this kind of awkward status quo that we have right now?
Look, I don't think that was an exact quote of what I said yesterday, so I'm not going to associate myself with the way you framed it. There are a series of trade issues between the countries. Most of the issues have been raised by the United States, either in terms of things they want to see changed in Canada. There are a series of tariff measures the United States has put in place which are in violation of the existing agreement. The tariffs on steel, the tariffs on aluminum, the tariffs on automobiles, the tariffs on forest products. Those are not consistent with the existing agreement. We look forward to sitting down. We have an exchange around these issues, both in terms of understanding what I'll use their term, they often use, trade irritants, a series of measures, which would include actions that have been taken in response to the American measures, such as the provincial actions. These are provincial actions with respect to alcohol on the shelves. I mean, you've got to remember, the client here are the provincial liquor authorities. They make the decisions what they put on their shelf. And they make those decisions based on a series of considerations, and they've taken that into account. So our work is as follows. With respect specifically to the negotiations, is to be prepared on all of the issues to provide our perspective and address, to negotiate in the round on all of these issues. This is a review process that's baked into the existing framework of the agreement, and as well to see where there are opportunities where we can be stronger together, and there are a number of those. We have those discussions as a whole. You prefaced your question where you don't know where this talk of a quote entry fee. I don't know where the talk of a quote entry fee is from. Certainly not coming from me. It's not language I've ever used, and it's not language I've ever heard from the President of the United States. So, look, we're ready. We're having exchange. It's more than ready. There's exchange on both understanding the issues and on opportunities for cooperation. It's a negotiation. These things have their own rhythm, and they also have what's happening above the surface and what's happening below the surface, and we'll see in the fullness of time.
Follow-up?
Yeah, on that same vein, I guess my confusion stems from the fact that the Americans are saying, not really a negotiation. We're laying out what we need to see Canada do, and Canada's not meeting us there.
That's a negotiation. That's a position. See, Yana, there's two parties in a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
One, we're not sitting here taking notes, okay, and taking instruction from the United States. Understanding their position, understand where it's in Canada's interest, when in our joint interests to be stronger together. And this is a government that can do many things at one time. We set up, to go back to today, we set up Build Canada Homes. It literally was set up in September. The legislation to give it all of its authorities is still working its way through the House. We're glad that we have a majority now. We can move that forward more rapidly. We're already in a position where 10,000 plus homes catalyzed by Build Canada Homes are either under these agreements are in place. We've got 1,400 homes are either under construction or will be in the next 2 months. We're doing that plus large projects. We're doing it plus providing a boost and a bridge to Canadians. We're doing that while continuing, despite unprecedented trade measures being taken by the United States. We're the second fastest growing economy in the G7 with the best fiscal position, with 20 new deals signed with other countries around the world. So we're going to do multiple things at the same time. We have enough room. We're ready to go into detailed negotiations. We're also ready to wait if that's what has to happen.
But in terms of that urgency,
we're running out of time otherwise. Next question.
Prime Minister Stephanie Levitz from the Globe and Mail. I will quote you directly from yesterday, if that's okay with you.
That's good.
So you were talking about, it was the question of trade irritants. You said, we understand what what the Americans would call trade irritants or trade issues are. We have some on our side as well. Can you be a bit more clear about what those are, and are those things that you would like to see solved prior to negotiation? Are they part of the negotiation?
No, Ms. Levitz, I think this distinction between prior and to any adjustment on the trade side is part of the negotiation. That's my view. So whether you have a global agreement or you take a few things off the table as part of moving towards that global agreement, that's part of the negotiation. So I think to some degree, I understand why you're asking the previous question, but it's an unhelpful distinction because it's part of an overall negotiation. That's the simple thing. What are trade irritants? There's a 50% tariff on aluminum, 50% tariff on steel. The derivative measures that have been put in place on both of those. The auto tariffs, which are inconsistent with the side letters. The tariffs on forest products. So there's a series of issues there that are right there in front of us all. I mean, they're fundamental. We understand the Americans have changed their overall trade policy, their orientation, but we need to work together, and we will work together in the context of what's in the best interests of both countries.
Follow-up?
Just as the follow-up, with regards to the steel tariffs in particular, and I want to link this to the video you posted on the weekend about forward guidance and not sugarcoating it for Canadians. There are people in the steel industry now, for example, who are looking at the way they've changed the application of the steel tariff and are warning that thousands of jobs are going to be lost imminently, like not down the road, like within weeks. And so I wonder if you could speak to those Canadians, and what is your assessment of how bad it is about to get out there?
I would make if I may, distinction between the industry, the core industry in steel, where a series of measures have been taken, raising our tariffs and so-called tariff rate quotas to third country steel into Canada, introducing a Buy Canadian policy, providing strategic response, hundreds of millions of dollars of support into the industry and into workers, which is helping to shift some of our largest steel manufacturers into profitability and into new markets. I want to distinguish between that, where there's more to be done, and look, it would be better for the United States we are resolute about this, better for the United States and better for Canada to have a unified steel market that we had before. It would make the U.S. more competitive versus China. It would provide more markets for American steel. That would do a number of things as well. Ultimately, that's part of the negotiation. Where the pressure is increasing, and what we're looking at right now, is the change in American, this term derivatives, where it's downstream users of steel, and then a tariff, a steel-like tariff, or effectively a steel tariff being applied to the whole product, and the jump in the tariff because of that. And that is a new development that the Americans are applying globally. Remember that all the things in steel, aluminum particularly, America's applying to everybody. We happen to have a trade agreement, or existing trade agreement, which is what they're doing is inconsistent with that. I recognize my answers are long, but I'll make sure we get some more questions. So I better stop there.
Next question.
Hang on.
When private matters need professional...
Okay, so we lost it. Come back. Here we go. I'll tell you what, let's just do this while I deal with the little glitch here. Technically, be right back.
We are the Mavericks. Welcome to the Matrix, baby. Hope you like the view. We are the Mavericks. The world is watching. We are the Mavericks.
So yeah, the trade war is off and running, or I should say it's kind of kicked up a notch. And that, of course, brings Doug Ford out of the woodwork. First, he was over on CNN. And then, I don't know which one came first. I think he was on CNN first. And then he wound up over on ABC. So the Premier of Ontario being given voice and platform through ABC News today.
So apparently America isn't invited to happy hour. The spirited debate continues as Ontario Premier Doug Ford declares that American alcohol will not return to shelves until the United States removes its tariffs on Canadian goods. A flat rejection of mounting U.S. pressure to lift a ban that has reshaped the province's liquor market for more than a year. All of this leading to the tension on the Hill and this spat between New Hampshire Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick.
It is outrageous that Canada will not put U.S. spirits on the shelf. It is insulting.
It is.
And disrespectful to America that they won't
Absolutely.
even put...
And my husband has an interest in a company that has American spirits. And they won't do it because of the insults from this president and comments like yours.
Well, we did reach out to the White House for comment on the back and forth over trade and alcohol, but we are yet to hear back. But we are hearing from Ontario Premier Doug Ford. He joins me now. Good to see you, Doug.
Yeah, great to be on, Kara.
All right, well, we saw this video of you pouring out American whiskey at a press conference when this all started last year. So, you know, I always have to have a little fun with you. What cocktail are you missing the most right now?
Well, that's actually some Canadian whiskey. But in saying that, this all comes down to one thing, Kira. Let's get back to the table. Let's start negotiating. And they're worried about, and I differentiate, first of all, between President Trump and Secretary Lutnick, the American people. I love the American people. Canadians love Americans. And I know Americans love Canadians. So that's what we need to focus on.
So I have to ask you, though, you pulled the U.S. alcohol in response to Trump's tariffs, understood. But your consumers, you know, they lost access to hundreds of products now, and it's also impacting your businesses. So especially smaller owned businesses. How do you justify this as leverage in a trade dispute when it's, you know, impacting your folks directly?
Well, I wouldn't say it's impacting our folks. The tariffs are impacting our folks, but it's impacting Americans too. A tariff on Canada is a tax on America. And I'll give you a couple examples. The auto sector has lost $107 billion since the tariffs came in effect. Tourism is down by 30%, $4.5 billion. 90,000 American manufacturing jobs are gone. And this is not what the president ran on. He ran on making sure there's more jobs. Well, now there's less jobs because of the tariffs that he's put on Canada. Your number one customer in the world. We buy more products than anyone, and vice versa. America buys more products off Canada than anyone. So we've been so intertwined. We have to get back to the table and start negotiating.
All right. Every time you come on this show, you always talk about how much you love America. You highlight the long-lasting relationship, you know, between our countries. But it's also clear you don't necessarily love Trump, or at least you don't love his policies. And we all know politics with Trump gets personal every single time. Do you think your beef with him is just too big to repair right now?
Well, I'll never get personal. I'll just put out facts. Maybe President Trump should take a few lines out of Ronald Reagan, one of the greatest presidents ever. He was about building trade, creating more jobs, more opportunities on both sides of the border. We're your closest neighbors, closest friends, closest allies in the entire world, Canada. And again, that there's no doubt that Canadians love Americans. They don't see eye to eye with President Trump right now, I can assure you. When he's attacking our auto sector, our steel sector, our aluminum sector, our dairy sector, and the list of lumber sector, it goes on and on and on. But I can assure you, we need each other. You need the high-grade nickel. You need our aluminum. You need our steel. You need the oil, the 4 million barrels, as what's happening over in Iran right now. You need Canadian oil, and we ship 4 million. You need our energy coming from Ontario, that we power 1.5 million homes and businesses in Michigan and New York and Minnesota. It's so much better to work together than to fight over tariffs. It just doesn't make sense.
Then I've got to ask you, do you see an end to this? And if so, what's it going to take, Doug?
Well, I see an end to it, and hopefully it'll be a good end, that both countries can prosper and more jobs are created on both sides of the border. That's the way it's been for 200 years, and it should continue to be that way for the next 200 years. We're your closest allies, friends. We've stood shoulder to shoulder in many situations, and we're going to continue moving forward.
And so let's go back to Mark Carney again for just a moment and just highlight again the more aggressive stance he took today. This is a definite pivot in strategy and tone.
And what if this alcohol thing becomes more than an irritant? Look,
you know what's an irritant? Yeah. 50% tariff on steel, 50% tariff on aluminum, 25% tariff on automobiles, all the tariffs on forest products. Those are more than irritants. Those are violations of our trade deal. Okay?
And what if?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. It's a violation of the trade deal that Trump negotiated. It's true. Yeah. So, big change in direction. But what are we getting out of Washington today? We're getting more of the show. And it's frankly escalating to a point where it is getting, well, it's beyond ridiculous now. But let's go first to the Truth Social scroll, shall we? We'll get to the defecation in a moment, but it can wait. We'll show you this first, where Trump is now posting saying Iran isn't going to execute 8 women after he demanded their release. But it's so bad, I don't know if we should even believe what he's saying. Other media reporting on that tonight. Let's go here to the New York Post. They're good little stenographers, and they repeat what he says right here. Trump says Iran won't execute 8 women after he demanded their release. Could be true, maybe it is. He announced Wednesday that Iran will no longer execute 8 women after he pleaded Tuesday for their freedom, calling it very good news in a social media post. He says, I have just been informed that 8 women protesters who are going to be executed in Iran will no longer be killed. I don't know why he took sudden interest in this. 4 will be released immediately, and 4 will be sentenced to 1 month in prison, Trump wrote on Truth Social. I very much appreciate that Iran and its leaders respected my request as President of the United States and terminated the planned execution. The announcement came hours after Trump extended a 2-week ceasefire with Iran as U.S. negotiators await Tehran's reply to the latest American offer to end the nearly 2-month conflict. 2 months, twice as long as he said it was going to take, and still no end in sight. Iran's judiciary denied the 8 women were ever set for execution, claiming that Trump was misled once again by fake news, and that some of them have been released while others face charges that, if convictions are upheld, would at most result in imprisonment. So again, though, it's weirdness. It's like Trump is getting sucked in by propaganda or fake news. It may be even his own fake news from some government department that is putting out fake news to make Iran look worse than it actually is. This is bizarre. I talked to you yesterday about everybody being trapped in an information propaganda feedback loop. It looks like Trump might be caught in some of these himself, to the point where he's beginning to believe his own lies. Iran's claim is contested. One of the women, Bita Hamati, was sentenced to death for allegedly being part of a group that threw objects onto Iranian forces during protests back in January, according to human rights groups. Her case was reported last week by the U.S.-based human rights activists news agency. Hamadi and 4 women were convicted of participation in protest gatherings on January 8th and 9th, 2026, including chanting protest slogans, throwing objects, including bottles, concrete blocks, and incendiary materials from rooftops. How do you're throwing concrete blocks? Well, okay. Probably not throwing them very far, but you could hurt somebody that way. And destruction of public property, the activist news agency said. Over 2 of the 8 have been out on bail since late March, according to the Norway-based Iran Human Rights Organization. Iranian dissident Masih Alinejad, who lives in the U.S., publicized the cases of the 8 women, tweeting their names and photos and specifying which 4 were believed to be sentenced to death. And then Trump launched the current war, blah, blah, blah. So it looks like what's going on is Trump saying he saved these 8 women from execution by messaging Iran and saying, don't you do that. Don't you execute any of these women, or I'm going to bomb the hell out of you again. And they're like, well, okay, because we weren't going to execute them anyway. I don't know. I'm really beginning to wonder what the hell is going on. Well, I was wondering before. And as I was watching live streams all through the night and then in through today, as I'm going from live stream to live stream to live stream and even news channel to news channel, they're all talking about how confusing it is just watching what is going on with the Trump administration and how Trump contradicts himself multiple times in just a single statement. So why? Why is this happening? Is Trump losing his mind? Has he lost his mind? Is he just incompetent? Is this the art of the deal? Is he playing 17D chess? Is he being fed information that is driving him crazy? Is he made? I'm speculating. Is somebody or some people feeding him information that he believes, then turns around and makes public statements or posts online based on the erroneous information that he's being fed, thinking it's true? Like intelligence services within the White House? Or is he intentionally posting the stuff to mislead everybody? To make himself look crazy so nobody knows what the hell is going on? No, everybody, it doesn't matter where you go for your news right now. At some point, they're going to acknowledge the inconsistency, the contradictions, the craziness of it all, and then they'll be talking about they don't understand what's happening. And because of that, we don't know what to trust. We can't trust him. We can't trust Iran. We are caught in this strange place, in a loop, where we are having trouble figuring out what is actually real. And with very little coming out of Iran in terms of video or any media content except propaganda of one kind or another, we can't even really gauge the extent of the damage that has been done from these alleged, I'm going to start to say alleged military strikes, because I can't really, I have no way of knowing if anything that has been said is even true. Keeping in mind that some months ago, Trump said that the entire Iranian nuclear program had been completely obliterated. Now we're back and they're apparently engaging in more bombing, and we see a little bit of proof of that from satellite imagery, but that has been basically blacked out for weeks now, blacked out shortly after the war was launched. Oh, excuse me. It's an information warfare mess. Maybe that's the entire intent. Can't follow it. It's hard to make sense. That's what happens, I guess, when you turn the world upside down. The thing is, and we're going to get into, I'm going to take you down a bit of a side road tonight. Because, you know, there's this whole philosophy that underpins what MAGA is about. There's a whole ideology that underpins not just what MAGA is about, but what is clearly a global political movement network of political parties and activism that is being used to try to reshape this world, to basically hit a big reset button, which they think they've already set. They have, in a way, because you've got Trump in power here. You had Orban in Hungary, and you've had, you know, you have some of the rise of other political parties in that political network, and they are reforming everything with a political ideology that people really don't recognize. I've been talking about it for some time, but it is a political philosophy that I think it's actually where political philosophies and ideologies from various countries and thinkers have overlapping commonalities, and they're converging, coming together. But the driving force behind all of it is the work of Alexander Dugin from Russia. His Eurasianism, his illiberalism, his call to defeat liberalism, classical liberalism, which is Western democratic freedom, with combined forces of communism and fascism, saying that really the only problems with those two ideologies, communism and fascism, is that they were defeated by liberal ideology historically, but believes if you bring them together and you get the people from both of those camps united, you can then defeat liberalism. He, of course, is required reading now in Russian military academies, and He has tried to, many people are trying to bring his philosophy to America. It matches and mirrors, it meshes is maybe a better word, with the philosophy, the ideology with MAGA in America, and with some of the right wing stuff in Canada too. And that is because it embraces the idea of traditionalism and rejects modernism and postmodernism, free thinking, individuality. It completely rejects those ideas. It's at war with those concepts, at war with liberalism, which they're selling. They've kind of repackaged that word, reframed it in a way to reframe it and redefine it in people's minds as being something destructive, which is what Dugin believes, that liberalism is self-destructive, that it marches along and gets to a point where it self-destructs. If that were the case, why would he have to go to war with it? Why not just let it eat itself alive? Because it doesn't really do that. But what they don't like about it is, if you're a traditionalist, it means that you believe in what you believe. You have a very rigid set of beliefs. And while you're telling people you're giving them freedom, you're really giving them the opposite. I hear sometimes many people, even within the MAGA movement, saying, we're the ones that are going to we're giving you freedom. We're the defenders of individual rights and freedoms, when nothing could be further from the truth. I believed that for some time, until I began to read more and learn more about what these ideologies are about, how they actually overlap and dovetail. And if you really dig into the real meat of the matter, you begin to see that, in fact, what these people are selling us is the absolute direct opposite of all of that. Because they reject individualism. They want conservative, traditional values. That must dominate society. It's based on the philosophy of realism. You can't just interpret things. It's straight down the line. It is this way. It's our way. If not, get the hell out of here on the fastest free highway out of here, because we don't want you. It's exclusionary. It actually is a philosophy that embraces everything except Western culture. Everything else is okay. Paganism, Satanism, that's okay. They'll embrace that. They believe in. You can have any kind of paganistic country you want. That's okay. If that's the traditional culture of that nation state, that society, that is to be respected, but dominated in that sphere of domination geopolitically by Russia, the United States, or China. But all these traditional cultures and ideologies, religions, it doesn't matter what they are, they have to be honored. But if it is liberalism, Western free democratic ideology, that is rejected. That's self-destructive. That is evil. That's what they're at war with. They're at war with freedom. Because liberalism is the whole concept of freedom, free thinking, individual rights, rule of law, the Enlightenment, modernism, postmodernism. How do you interpret things? Impressionism. We'll touch on more of this as we move forward. It's key to It's key to everything. Let's go back to Ottawa for Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party, who also addresses today the big trade tiff between Carney, Trump, or I should say really Canada and Trump. But Carney has become sort of the Canada's kryptonite for Donald Trump. That's what that's where he's going. It's more than elbows up at this point. Stakes are high.
Les grandes questions de l'économie depuis une décennie, et c'est pour ça qu'il ne veut pas répondre aux questions. By contrast, now in English, we want, as Canadians, we want stronger take-home pay, safer streets, solid borders in a self-reliant Canada. We want to restore the promise of this country where anyone who works hard gets affordable food and homes, gets to live on a safe street and own a house. We want to free up money for this affordable Canada by cutting corporate welfare, bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, handouts to fake and phony refugees. All of this would help bring down deficits, taxes, and inflation. Our mission, again, is to restore the promise of this country that has been broken. After 11 years of Liberal governments, Canadians cannot afford housing, groceries, and gas. Liberals have doubled our debt, doubled food bank lineups, and doubled housing costs. They gave us the worst growth in the G7 over the last decade and the worst decade of economic growth in Canada's history. Mark Carney supported every single one of these costly, disastrous Liberal policies. And then in the last election, he promised to reverse everything he had said and that his party had done in the prior decade. Yet nothing has changed. Everything is worse. More crime, more costs, more corruption, more of the same. Mark Carney is just another Liberal. Carney Liberals have doubled Trudeau's deficit. This is amazing. No one thought it could get any worse than Justin Trudeau's deficits. Yet Carney's deficit is twice the size of Trudeau's, all because he's increased government spending by 7% year over year. He's added $90 billion of net new spending above and beyond his promised savings, two-thirds of which is going to day-to-day operations and not to capital investment. And C.D. Howe said today Canada can no longer pride itself on fiscal discipline, end quote. Carney Liberals gave us the worst food inflation in the G7, and yet he had the audacity to claim in the House of Commons last week that affordability is at its best in a decade. Carney Liberals promised to double home building, while his housing agency says it will fall by 18%. Today, Carney was again spreading housing illusions, re-announcing an announcement he made back in December for projects that have still not got underway. All he has built is a new housing bureaucracy, a new agency in Ottawa to sop up tax dollars and block home building. More illusions. A year after Mark Carney promised to build at speeds not seen in generations, his promised pipeline to the Pacific has no permit, no route, no investor, no builder, no start date, no end date, and no oil to put in it. In fact, the only company that says they could potentially build that pipeline, Enbridge, says there won't be enough oil because the Liberal industrial carbon tax will prevent it from ever being produced. He's not negotiated a single free trade agreement. He broke his singular promise from the last election to negotiate a win with the United States by July of last year. Instead, he has done nothing while the Americans have doubled tariffs on aluminum, steel, and other products and tripled them on lumber. No one knows his plans or even his goals. Help me to understand this. Sunday, Mark Carney released a video comparing himself to Sir Isaac Brock, a 19th century war general who fought a war against the Americans. He said in that video that it is a weakness that we trade with the U.S. Today, he said we're stronger together with the Americans. He said recently that he wants a rupture with the U.S., and now he says he thinks we can get a mutually beneficial deal. These are contradictions all in the span of a few days.
I don't think he said that he wants a rupture with the United States. I think he said that this is a rupture. There's a difference. I have to check it.
So which is it? Is it a rupture, or are we stronger together? And why is it that he contradicts himself so wildly? Is it because he doesn't know what he's doing from one day to the next? Or more likely, is it that he's using sensationalist words he does not mean to make headlines distracting from rising costs, crime, and corruption here at home in his own Liberal government? While he plays these games, there's one thing that is certainly rupturing: jobs. Almost a month ago, the U.S. slammed Canada with broadened tariffs It will cost Windsor $1 billion alone. Yet the Prime Minister has not said or done a single thing about it. Zero, nothing. More ruptured jobs. He says he wants this rupture with the U.S. Does that mean he wants to pull out of the CUSMA? Because that's what a rupture would mean, unless the word was just a meaningless, sensationalist slogan. Now, I would ask him that question directly in the House of Commons, but he won't show up for question period, because he knows that he and his agenda are nothing but a grand illusion. As soon as someone asks him a tough question, the illusion collides with reality. And the reality is that he's been wrong on every major economic issue of our time. He was wrong to support a bigger and broader carbon tax. He was wrong to support EV mandates, wrong to say we should keep 50% of our oil in the ground, wrong to support money printing during COVID, wrong to predict that COVID would lead to deflation rather than inflation, wrong on every major issue of our time, including the Indo-Pacific. One of Mr. Carney's most ridiculous illusions is around trade deals. He has not negotiated a single new free trade deal. And let me say that again. Mark Carney has not negotiated a single new free trade deal. He has signed 20 joint press releases with other countries, many countries that we already had trade deals with before. Nor has his major projects office approved a single major project that would allow us to send more resources to Asia. We need reality and not illusions. Under the previous Conservative government, we were able to sign new free trade deals with 50 countries, including Canada, South Korea. We were able to expand our trade into that region. But we must do better and we must do more, because our trade is still unbalanced with that region. Canada imports 25% of our merchandise imports from South Korea. From that region are coming into our country, but only 10% of our exports go in the other direction. We can do better. And that's why it's my pleasure to announce today that Hung Cao, Member of Parliament, trade practitioner, and geopolitical expert, will serve as chair of the Conservative Party Pacific Gateway Economic Engagement Caucus with the following mandate: develop a comprehensive Conservative strategic plan for the Asia-Pacific. Develop policy ideas for maximizing our exports to the region, including by approving pipelines and LNG plants. Protect Canada's security interests. Form a dedicated team of our Conservative shadow ministers to build out this policy. Support planning for future Conservative missions to the Indo-Pacific, and publish his findings in a comprehensive report by the end of this year. Hung Cao has a strong and consistent record in this area. He has led numerous cultural.
All right. He didn't say that. He twisted the words. He twisted the words. He said Mark Carney wants a rupture with the United States, and Mark Carney did not say that. You go find me a clip, somebody, anybody, go find me a clip, send it to me. Email something where Mark Carney says that he wants a rupture with the United States. That's not what he has said. He has said that there is a rupture. He says things are not normal. I've heard him say that. He's repeatedly said that the situation we're in is a rupture, or the equivalent of a rupture, caused by the actions of Donald Trump, tariffs, trade irritants, shifting away from, the way we've always traditionally done business over cross-border trade, violating the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade deal. He has said, in Davos, he said, we are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. I read the book, too, and I read the speech. That's what he has been saying. For Poilievre to sit up there and say that way, to accuse Carney of wanting a permanent rupture, or a rupture, that's dirty. It's not true. I stand to be corrected if anybody can find me a clip of him saying that, even today. Maybe it's new, maybe I've missed it, but I've never heard him say that, and I'm listening to stuff all the time. Carney describes an existing rupture because of these shifts in U.S. policy, and that he wants Canada to adapt and strengthen itself. He has not said, does not say, as far as I know, that he wants or is pushing to create a break in trade relations. He's responding to the way the world is, not to the way he wishes it to be. I take exception to it. Don't like it. If I had been there, I would have pushed back hard on that. In that scrum, I would have held Poilievre's feet to the fire as a journalist. Those other reporters better wake up. Accuracy, fairness. You know, when I see stuff like that, how can I trust someone who lies to me, who then says, "Make me your leader. I'm the guy to follow." I don't think so. No.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Same thing with Trump. If he doesn't say something, but somebody accuses him of saying something, I'll call that out too. And I did just yesterday, which some people were saying, well, why are you even talking about it then? Well, because people need to have correct information that gets them closer to the truth. But the claim that went out there saying, without verification, without identifying a credible source in the White House, saying that a report has come out that Donald Trump tried to get his hands on the nuclear codes on Saturday, but a general stepped in and stopped it, as if to say that Trump wanted to use nukes against Iran on Saturday, and somebody prevented that from happening, as if to say Trump has completely lost his mind. And I said, I don't think that's true. And I'm just a Canadian, but I know a little bit about how systems work politically and bureaucratically in the United States, and I'm pretty sure it does not work that way. I don't think any general would be standing up to Trump in the way that it was described, refusing to give him access to the nuclear codes. If that had actually happened, I think you would have had a major, and I mean major, crisis exposed, talked about, bubbling to the surface. a crisis of confidence and maybe a complete breakdown in the entire government at that point, if it ever got to that point. I don't think that happened. I think it is a complete fabrication. I've seen the story just fade out of existence after going through a 24-hour news cycle because the mainstream media, the more credible independent social media influencers did not pick up on it. So it got so far. It only got so far, and then it petered out. Here's Trump today addressing the use of nuclear weapons, saying he would never do such a thing.
Would you use a nuclear weapon against Iran? You posted on Truth Social a few weeks ago.
We don't need it. Why do I need it? Why would a stupid question like that be asked?
Why
would I use a nuclear weapon when we've totally, in a very conventional way, decimated them without it? No, I wouldn't use it. A nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody.
Would you use a nuclear weapon against Iran?
So he said he wouldn't. But he said before, though, I have to say that he has said that all options are on the table. He's contradicting himself again here right now. You never know what you're going to get with that box of chocolates, but I just wasn't buying that report. An anonymous source from the White House says that Trump went completely crazy and tried to blow up Iran with a nuke. He had a big news conference today in the White House, in the Oval Office, to talk about pharmaceuticals with this big company, Regeneron. But also today, while there, more on the Iran front. And he seemed to get just a little bit testy here when confronted with the length of time the conflict in the Gulf has been going on.
Okay, what do you say to the American people who question how much longer this will take? Obviously, you know that they are having...
You're such a disgrace. Did you hear what I just said? Vietnam. How many years was Vietnam?
I understand, sir. But
how many years was Vietnam? Well, I did my... I took the country out militarily in the first 4 weeks.
What do you say to the American people?
But they're still there. The amount of money being spent is astronomical. We are into $500 million to $1 billion a day. More when you are talking about days where they're actually launching missiles, which is why today Zelensky has come out highlighting the need, in his view, for Europe to become more independent of the United States militarily, saying that they can't rely on the U.S. anymore for missile defense, or maybe even defense in general.
Including Middle East, and we will try to build our Ukrainian and a system of anti-ballistic system. We need it, and of course we will share with all the partners without any questions, and because we need, all of us, we need it, and not only to create the system, to create such capabilities which can produce more. Now, you know that the United States produces about 60, maybe 65 missiles per month, PAC-3 anti-ballistic missiles. It's nothing. During the first day of attack on Middle East, you know that they used the volume of 2 years production of such missiles during 24 hours. So we need our European independent, strong system, and we will build it. Including Middle East, and we will try to.
Because of everything going on in Iran, the focus is really being shifted away from Ukraine. But there is so much going on over there. And then there's all this talk about an entry fee. Trump's team's demanding an entry fee from Ottawa into these trade talks. Looks like that's not actually true, so there's misinformation on that side. What the hell is the truth? I don't know, but this sounds pretty raw, maybe too close to the truth. At that news conference today with the pharmaceutical company Regeneron, Trump had his feed cut, and while the feed was cut, he literally says, I could use I'm sorry. Cover your ears. If you're easily triggered or offended, he said, you have to listen carefully here, but he says, I could take a shit. The feed's still up, it's still live, it just goes to a test pattern, color bars, and Trump says it. And this is going viral online. The President of the United States not thinking, not treating the microphone as live, which is a rule. If there is a microphone present, you are always supposed, this is what I learned in broadcast school, journalism school. If there's a microphone, you should always assume it is live. Can't say I always follow the rule either. There are a lot of microphones around here, but I don't generally worry about it too much. But yeah, you should treat it as live, especially as you're in the middle of a feed. This is what he says. This is what it's come down to, and this, like I said, it's just become a reality show. It doesn't get much more real than that, does it? What is it with this current incarnation of the United States with Trump at the helm? It is a weird place. They can't even fire people Trump can't even fire them properly anymore. I guess he got Pete Hegseth had something of an issue, I guess, with U.S. Navy Secretary John Phelan. Went in to see Trump, apparently. Was airing some grievances, concerns about the way things were going. Trump told Hegseth to just take care of it, go do something about it. So Hegseth turned around, had a problem with Phelan, who is a friend of Donald Trump's, and then Trump, I guess, fired John Phelan, the U.S. Navy Secretary. So he's leaving. I guess he walked around, Phelan did, for about a day, couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, kept asking, am I fired? Am I fired? He finally got to meet with Trump or talk to him directly, and Trump says, yeah, okay, fine, you're fired. So Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell has confirmed all of this in a social media post. And again, cover your ears. This is actually a name. I can't believe I'm saying this tonight. So Phelan's replacement. This is so weird. Can it get any weirder? His replacement is Navy Undersecretary Hung Cao. How am I supposed to do news stories moving forward with that? Hung Cao. Transgender bovine. Cao. I'm sorry. That's who he picked. This guy, I guess he's also Hung Cao is concerned about witches, especially out in California. Because this is spiraling into I don't know what. Here's a clip from the new Navy guy, Hung Cao. How now, Hung Cao?
There's a place in Monterey, California called Lovers Point.
Yeah.
The original name was Lovers of Christ Point, but now it's become, they took out the Christ, it's Lovers Point, and it's really, Monterey is a very dark place now.
Yeah.
A lot of witchcraft and the Wiccan community has really taken over there. And we can't let that happen in Virginia. Virginia is, I mean, especially down in Roanoke, they're God-loving people.
Right.
Richmond too, and Virginia Beach, and we just need to mobilize Christians across the nation. I mean, there's a place in Monterey, California called Lovers Point.
Yeah.
The original name was
Lovers Point. Too weird. Wow. He's, I guess, a communist-hating patriot, is the way they describe him. And he's also gets pretty frickin' weird. He's talking about being a Vietnamese white supremacist over on Steve Bannon's War Room.
This is great. I know I'll be attacked by the left and call me white supremacist, but I have one ask for them. It's just when you give me my hood, make sure it's got the little slits and not the circles so I can see better.
Captain Hung Cao, thank you very much for joining us in War Room.
Captain Hung Cao. Wow. Just... Sure he's a nice guy. I've never met him.
We are the Mavericks. Welcome to the Matrix, baby. Hope you like the view. We are the Mavericks. The world is watching. We are the Mavericks.
Okay, we're back. Poilievre also has been coming out saying, I'm gonna comment on it because it's a big part of his response to the Carney approach to dealing with Donald Trump on the trade file. Poilievre has been talking about establishing a big national oil reserve, a strategic oil reserve like the United States has, which of course the United States does that to use not just to manipulate the oil market in times of need, but also to keep it in reserve for their huge military. So Poilievre is calling for that as well in Canada. We've never had that, though, and there are two schools of thought on it. The one being that if you have a giant reserve of oil just stockpiled someplace, barrels of oil just sitting in storage, then like just gazillions of them, then you can always tap into it in a time of need. But of course, it just sits there, right? And Poilievre, I think it was today, recently anyway, and maybe repeatedly, has said that if Canada establishes a reserve, that those reserves would then be made available to allies at market prices in the event that it should become necessary. When I've been reading that, it's sort of like, well, what is the point? What's the point in doing that? If you have a strategic oil reserve for a country, the point of having it is to make sure that you are energy secure in the event of an energy shortage, an oil shortage. Canada has never had that in place because the view has been we have oil production in the country already, so the reserves are in the ground. And if we need it, we'll just, I guess, limit exports and use what we can get out of the ground and start to supply ourselves here, or deal with it sort of in that way. To establish an oil reserve, though, what would need to happen is you would need to take a gigantic amount of money, probably billions of dollars, and allocate those funds to oil, which would then be sitting in storage someplace, not collecting interest, not doing anything other than sitting in there at just the value of it affected by whatever the prevailing world market price is at any given time. Not increasing in value, only increases in value if the price of oil goes up. And if it goes down, it goes down. But it just sits there. It actually costs the government money every single month as you pay interest on the debt to keep the oil reserve there. So over time, those billions and billions of dollars that you would have invested in an oil reserve would be sitting there costing taxpayers money, that you have to service the debt on that. Do you understand? It's like putting money under a mattress. That's the plan. Now, I can understand if you're concerned that you might not have enough energy in the future to deal with something like a national security crisis, and you want to make sure you've got reserves on hand to run your military ships, your fighter jets, your tanks, your cars, your jeeps, everything you need, and to keep your country functioning in the event of an energy crisis on that level. But given that Canada has access to oil, and so does the United States for that matter, but that's their problem. I'm just not sure that it's a smart strategy to be parking that level of debt, like putting it into oil and then just having it sit someplace in storage month over month. It could sit there for years and years. You might tap in here and there like they do in the States and sell it into the marketplace. But if you're doing that, then you kind of diminish your reserves, don't you? They had cut into the reserves at times in the States, and then Trump came along and topped them up when the price of oil was low. Now, of course, because the price has increased, the oil in their reserves is worth more. But what they've done with their reserve is actually at times they sell it off into the marketplace in order to suppress prices. I think they did it at the beginning of this oil shock to try to drop, to force prices down by increasing supply. But it was only had an impact for about 1 out of all of the weeks, even with all the oil they put out into the marketplace. So I don't know. You can assess for yourself. There are two minds on this, two ways of thinking and looking at it. I'm just not sure it's actually that smart, that wise, because you leave that oil sitting there. You have an oil reserve like that. Over what does it cost? The interest on, even if it was say $10 billion, depending on what the interest rate would be, even to the government, or the opportunity costs. I don't know. And then to just say, Like if the strategy was to say that you're going to then make that oil available to Canadians, consumers, at like below market rates if there's a price shock in order to make sure there's affordable energy for people, I could see that. But he's not even saying that. He's saying it would be sold at market rates. Well, the market rate is whatever the price is at the time. And if there's an energy shock or an energy shortage, prices go sky high. As we just saw, a major price increase from about $40 per barrel up to now over $100 a barrel in the blink of an eye. So if you wanted to say, Canadians, we'll take care of you, we'll have this strategic oil reserve. And I think in people's minds, that's what they think would happen. But that's not even what he said. But people don't understand generally economics or even basic household finance. There was a survey done, I guess, about this past week. I saw something about it where they asked Americans, and I don't know what the demographic was, but they asked people how many planets astronauts have set foot on. How many planets have human astronauts set foot on? Does anybody have the answer? I'm looking in the chat. I'll give it a moment. I'll let you catch up. I'll run a little promo. We'll come back. It just came to mind, actually. How many planets have astronauts set foot on? I'll be right back.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Going back to the chat on Rumble. Oh, I lost it. It is so delicate, this clicking of things. Checking the chat. $1272B51. Is Earth a planet? Yes, Earth is a planet. Jubilee says Mars 1, Venus 2, Pluto 3, Mercury 4. Yeah, Vicky Gould says Earth, that's it. That's right. The moon is not a planet. The moon's not a planet. Only 30% of, was it 30%? 30%, I think it was only 30% got it right or something. No, 30% got it wrong. I don't remember which way it was. But even that amount of, I'm going to look it up now because I only heard it in passing. How many planets? It was crazy. Just the fact that people even think that it's I don't remember what the number was now. It was 30% one way or the other. Either way, it's ridiculous that people couldn't get that straight in their heads. I'll get it for you for tomorrow. No, I think it was like 30% couldn't get it right. it has to be that. It couldn't possibly, the human beings couldn't possibly be that misinformed. But isn't that crazy though? I don't know why people think the way they do. It just blows my mind. Yeah, we haven't been to any other planets. We're on planet Earth. And that's the only planet astronauts have stepped foot on, because they walk around on it every day when they're here. Anyway, let's move on. I just got sidetracked there with some stupidity. Plenty of it out there too, man. Plenty of it out there. I'm coming back. I'm going to circle back. Talk about the fat lady again. Because I don't think I adequately addressed it. And I know the knives are going to come out again, because I've had many people now coming after me with knives, hacking and slashing and demanding blood and a pound of flesh here and there. Simply because I mentioned Kate Smith. And the saying that it ain't over till the fat lady sings. And I promised I would address it, as I did again last night. But I'm going to talk about it again, because it ties into everything I'm talking about tonight. Once again, entirely relevant. And I want to further expand on my thoughts. You see, I had somebody initially message me, which is why I mentioned it again, saying that they were disappointed in me for talking about it. I guess suggesting that I had been insensitive and had in some way been insulting, and that's not what my intent was at all. And so I didn't apologize yesterday, though, about talking about it. I tried to explain, but I want to explain more. Because, you see, it's actually quite the opposite. Not just for me, but I think for millions and millions of others. See, because to the person who emailed me, you have to understand, like, if you look at it through a mono lens, a single lens, a very narrow point of view on it, you'll say, oh, you shouldn't talk like that. It can hurt her feelings. And it sort of did, because Kate Smith was sensitive about her body and her image, as many celebrities are. But the truth of the matter is, I think, for the vast majority of people, when it comes to that saying, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, it's not an insult at all. Certainly, I never, my entire life, thought of it in that way at all. That's why when it came out the other night, just in passing, I just didn't even think twice about it in that way. Because it's not meant that way. It's the opposite of that. Because you see, that phrase goes back to opera long before the 1970s, when it was popularized through pop culture, sports culture, as we talked about the other night. But when you're talking about the fat lady coming out to sing, you're not only honoring, but you're paying tribute to the woman who is going to sing, or who would sing at the end of an opera, or in the case of Kate Smith, would come out and sing at a Philadelphia Flyers game or a Yankees game. God bless America. Ronald Reagan said that Kate Smith was, or is at the time, America. Nobody was mocking Kate Smith. Nobody's mocking the lady that comes out at the end of the opera to sing either. quite the opposite. They can't wait to see it. They can't wait to immerse themselves in the power and the beauty of her performance, the grand finale. Without her, the performance would just not be complete. The people are there to acknowledge her gifts as a singer and as a unique individual, an artist doing something nobody else can do. She has unique talent. She is unique among the unique. Rare. The persona, the aura, the voice. I started making notes overnight about it. One thing led to another, of course, and I've got a whole bunch of things that I want to share with you tonight with regard to that, but also about the trade deal, the 51st state stuff, how it all ties into all of that, what Canada is, what we are as Canadians. The fat lady represents a unique, gifted artist delivering the emotional peak at the very end of a performance. It's not mockery. Never was. To interpret it that way is a miscomprehension. Comprehension skills are key to language. It's so easy to misunderstand, especially in text messaging, often in art as well, what an artist's intent is, because you can interpret things in different ways. People view things in different ways. And it's easy to get out the knife and start to hack and slash at something because you become offended if you don't interpret what someone says correctly, or what millions of people were saying. They didn't stand up and laugh at Kate Smith when she came out to sing. She always got a standing ovation. They loved Kate Smith. The people love the lady at the end of the opera. Can't go home until she sings. You wait for that. Maybe you'll get an encore. No, it's wrong to think of it in that way. You know, it's a funny thing too. I started to think about that and the reason that I have become so disenchanted with Trump and MAGA and all of this stuff going on with the political right at the moment, globally, especially in the United States, though, and in Canada. And it's because of the underpinning philosophy, the rejection of individualism while they pretend to be defending freedom. I mean, they literally, in some cases, wrap themselves up or within the word freedom. They're misusing it because they're not protecting individualism at all. It's all about traditionalism. In the States, what you're seeing right now with Trump, and this stuff with him, the Jesus memes, the laying on of hands in the Oval Office, him reading the Bible. This is mixing church and state. This is a prelude to a theocracy, if not just the evolution of a theocracy, a Christian theocracy that they are trying to establish within the U.S. government, merging the church and state, no more separation, which is in itself dangerous and, by default, autocratic and authoritarian, because you are establishing a particular region as superior to all others. which means all other religions, whether you like it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, end up being oppressed. That's why some of the things that have been going on in the White House within the administration, so strange. And I think about Canada, the existential threat from the United States because of all of this. And it's about art. We've been talking a lot about vibrations, frequencies, rhythm, music, art. Last night I highlighted video looping, a way of harnessing energy, creating a feedback loop visually with actual energy particles inside a video loop and making art with it. And in the process of doing that, people who experiment with it, it raises a lot of questions about the origins of life, because you can literally create completely new things inside this ecosystem, this electronic terrarium. Things spring to life in there, or appear to. And how you look at it is open to interpretation. But I think back to, the assassination of Charlie Kirk as well. And there was something really weird that happened. FBI Director Kash Patel, people kind of went a little bit nuts when he said in that news conference a message to Charlie Kirk after Kirk's death. He said, "To my friend, Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla." Now that's like military talk. We have the watch. Don't worry. We're still on duty. We're guarding the cause you fought for. And see you in Valhalla. That's a modern way that soldiers and veterans say goodbye to fallen friends. But that all goes back to started really with Norwegian troops and spread through the U.S. military. It means you died like a warrior. You fought bravely. You're in the Hall of Heroes. We'll meet again someday. But dig a little bit deeper, and the reason it felt weird to people is because Valhalla is not a Christian thing, and Charlie Kirk viewed as a Christian. He claimed to be a Christian. But Valhalla is from pagan, pre-Christian Viking stories. Paganism. Just seemed like an odd choice of words from Kash Patel. Why wouldn't he just say, "See you in heaven"? No, he said, "See you in Valhalla." A nod to a paganistic thing. The other reason it's sparked some concern is because that exact phrase has been used by some far-right groups online, even white supremacist groups. So, of course, it sparked a lot of debate, which even continues today. Now, I don't know. I'm not saying Kash Patel is trying to use it in that way. I kind of doubt it, and yet there was. It's come right out. And then you see Trump posting pictures of himself as the Pope, as Jesus, making excuses for himself. I see the underlying ideology behind all of this, which is constrictive, it's suppressive. It's all about traditionalism. It is not about free thinking. It is not about freedom. It is about traditional values, trad wives, traditional wives. That's what trad wives, being a trad wife means. And that's what that whole wing of the MAGA movement is all about. The evangelical Christian movement. Trump's in the White House, and he's surrounded by all of this. And at the very core, whether it's that or just the illiberalism, the war against liberalism, which people are embracing on the right, saying, oh, the crazy radical left-wing liberals, without realizing that, yeah, okay, you've got progressivism that's gone off the rails, you have wokeism that's gone off the rails on the far left, but if you're at war with liberalism, you're at war with democracy, you're at war with freedom. Liberalism, classical liberalism, is all about exactly that, freedom. If you're at war with that, you're at war with freedom. And for a while, I thought they were just at war with wokeism, but no, they're not. It goes way beyond that. It really is a war against liberalism. That's why you have this phrase out there, illiberalism, which is what they embrace. I think that's why so many people, including some of the closest people to Trump, have been bailing ship. You're seeing this whole MAGA movement, in many respects, fly apart. Whether it's Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Owen Schroyer, all of them. Now, in some cases, it's because they feel Trump isn't going far enough. He's not radical enough. Others, though, like myself, I'm like, holy crap, man. Some of the things you're doing, violating people's rights, civil liberties out the window. It's not just an assault on democracy, it's an assault on free thinking, freedom itself, individuality, individualism. But that should not be misinterpreted either. And I think people on the left often and have been taking it too far because they want to go beyond that. They're going way beyond that, where they're also questioning reality, just as the philosophers who have created this ideology, this MAGA, Dugin's Eurasianism, and illiberalism, the people behind all of that, they also take it too far. On the left, they're encouraging people to deny reality. In some cases, even deceive you into thinking you're something you're not. And on the other side, you have them challenging your reality with propaganda, information feedback loops, where you begin to question what reality even is. It's an information warfare technique, a strategy that they're employing. Bombarding you with confusion to break you down, destroy your will, make you question reality itself. If you read Dugin, he talks about it. He also has a stated strategy of destroying nation states by fostering division and separatist movements. All of it tying together. He clearly states that that is one of the strategies being employed in order to reach the goal of destroying liberalism, freedom, to establish this new world order. Not exactly his words, but this reordering is, I think, the better word, more accurate, reordering of the world into these spheres of influence and domination by the superpowers, Russia, China, the United States. But they have to destroy liberalism in order to bring it back up. But the thing is, where you're not allowed to think what you want to think. You're not allowed to question Trump. I'm getting it here all the time. You have TDS. What have they been accusing people on the the radical left of doing. Well, you're not allowed to question that. You talk to people in the conservative or the far right move, whatever you want to call it. And they'll say that one of the keys to this whole thing is you have to prevent them from controlling what you think, because they'll call you crazy. And if they can call you crazy, if they can determine that you're crazy, they'll put you in an institution, they'll put you away, they'll lock you away forever or worse. Because if you don't fall into line with their thinking, then they'll throw you in the can. They'll arrest you. They'll make your life miserable. They'll put you in an institution. You saw just in the past couple of weeks, police going to somebody's house, being accused of trying to take the man away because he didn't have full capacity to advocate for himself. They're doing it on both sides, is my point. You can't have a discussion with someone to even criticize. You're not allowed to criticize Donald Trump. He's the supreme leader of this faith. Some would say a cult. I'm kind of to the point now where I'm thinking, yeah, maybe it is, because some of these people have lost their minds and they won't listen to anything else. They won't look at anything else. It's just, you have TDS. You have TDS. You really should get some help with that. They say. Okay. That's why Trump is at war with Canada. That's why MAGA is at war with Canada. That's why they're at war with liberalism. They don't want you thinking for yourself. They're saying Canada isn't even a real country. We don't have a constitution. Your country doesn't even exist. Over and over again, I'm hearing it slipped into things that they're saying. And then people, it's true, in Canada, we are a little confused. We don't have a lot of, we're not boastful. We're reserved, pretty friendly overall, kind people. But what defines us as a nation state, as a country, as a people, as a society? What is it? Why does Canada exist as a country? Any country is just a place, a geographic place with, all countries have these artificial lines drawn on a map by people, dividing things into territories, areas. What defines a country? What makes it up? It's the people. It's the environment as well. It's everything coming together, in my view. Opinions on this will range considerably. But is Canada different than the United States, or should we just become the 51st state? Just get it over with. Just let them absorb us. What difference does it make? It makes a lot of difference, folks. Canada is a country that is evolving. Canada is a product of classical liberalism, as all Western countries are. That's hundreds, if not thousands, of years of philosophy, legal precedent, trial and error, wars, lessons learned, lessons forgotten, lessons relearned over and over again, blood spilled, fingers worked to the bones, treaties, conquest, peace deals, nuclear war, World War II. Through it all, Canada has been here, like since 1867 and before. Even well before that, just not formed as a nation state. And we are such a young country. in terms of what's written down on paper. Our history goes back a long way, though. Intertwined with the United States, and yet we are different. You know, I started to think a lot about what I was looking at in those video, the video feedback loop art. And I ran the song looped at the end of the program last night. All that crazy looking abstract stuff on the screen, that's all video looping art. That provided the video background for the song Looped. What does it mean? Well, what does it mean to you? See, I like living in a world where people can see things differently. I like living in a society where people are judged on the content of their character, not on the color of their skin. I like living in a free country. I don't want to live in a country where if you don't do what you are told to do, you will be put in jail. Comply, comply, comply. I don't want to live in a gray world. I want to live in a technicolor world. I don't want to live in a black and white existence. I want to live in Technicolor. Give me the Kodachrome, baby. I might not always like the pick, but I can go take my own. I can express myself. So can you. I can be me. You can be you. If I don't like what you're doing, I don't have to go over there. I can say no. It's freedom. It's about how you view things. When I look south of the border right now, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing anger and hatred and violations of rights. The very things that were going on up here in Canada during the lockdowns. All of this right now coming from the White House, run by a president who today met with a pharmaceutical company, a pharmaceutical giant, Regeneron. It's all into genetic splicing, genetic replacement therapy, gene therapy. Genetic medicines. Okay, you want it? Go ahead. Line up. Get your jab. This coming from a president who does all the things that most of the people in the freedom movement, within MAGA, whatever is left of it, you're all like, yeah, Trump got duped. Trump got tricked. Did he? I don't think so. He's not acting like it today. Today he's in the Oval Office meeting with pharmaceutical giants. Talking about gene-based therapies. Oh, and it's Trump RX. He's got his name on the program to administer these things. The very things the people in the heart of the movement are opposed to. And yet they're blind to it. It's like it's not happening. And all of that while he sits there and says, literally, I cannot, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again. He says, I could use a shit. Is that him? Just like, a guffaw, it's a big joke, it's just Trump telling it the way it is. That's Trump being Trump. 5D chess. Whereas that a guy who's got no class, doesn't care. That's the President of the United States, the most powerful country in the world. A distinguished office, an office with the greatest of responsibility, and you have a man, not a deity, in there who just let it rip in the Oval Office in front of all the people who were there. That aside, whether it was whether he knew it was live or not online, to sit there in the middle of the Oval Office and speak like that when you are the President of the United States. Does that sound very Christian to you? I put it to you, I don't think Donald Trump is a good Christian. He's accused of being a king. He says he is not. He denies it, and yet he posts images of himself online wearing a crown. And I watched Melania. I think maybe we should do a review on it. Somebody else mentioned they were watching Melania. What did I get out of it? Well, the person who messaged me about it today said that they really didn't get much of anything out of it. And I said, I didn't really get much of anything out of it either. Because all it really was Trump driving around with Melania, or separately, in long processions, sort of convoys of Secret Service vehicles, looking tough, showing them in settings where they're surrounded by gold. Rich people doing what rich people do, hanging out, giving orders, worrying about the little stuff. This coming from a man who says this is the dawn of the golden age. It's all about gold. It's all about the gold, baby. It's like worshiping the money. Does that sound very Christian? Talking about the stock market values in terms of dollars and cents, not human values. Stupid movie anyway. Ridiculously dumb, but so revealing. I don't know what it was other than an exercise in self-promotion, conceit. Felt like they were looking down their nose at me as a peasant from way on up high where they have so much money. Filthy rich. Dirty, dirty, filthy rich. And you know so much of it came from ill-gotten gains, casinos, Trump meme coins, pump and dumps. Bad deals, dirty dealing down in Panama. Gold. So what of Canada? Why? What's the deal with Canada? Does he not like Canada so much? He says he loves the people, blah, blah, blah. Bull crap. I'll tell you why. Because we're free thinkers up here. We represent everything he hates. We represent everything that political movement hates. And I'm not just talking about transgender. Well, I guess it's that too. It's like all of these things, but they just hate freedom. They want what they want for them, and they want to get it, even if it means freedom for them, but no freedom for other people. They want a Christian theocracy. That's their guiding light, or darkness. And that means rigid thinking. I don't think he even likes Catholics. That's why they're at war with the Pope. That's why Trump is at war with the Pope, while presenting himself as something of a replacement. A king? Yeah. You know why? He's setting himself up to be a king of kings. What do you mean, Rick? Even after, he doesn't even need to run for office again, because he has the Board of Peace and other organizations, institutions that he is setting up right now, that he is the head of and will continue to be the head of even after he leaves office. The Board of Peace, intended to replace the United Nations, they say. And who's the guy in charge? Donald J. Trump. In order to be a member of it, for life, you have to pay $1 billion. And he's the guy at the top. So he is the king of all the other kings. Even after he leaves the presidency, he now has that set up because he's used the power of the presidency to leverage all of that and other things in order to ensure he will have global power when he leaves. At least that's what the objective is clearly aimed at. He may try to run again. People want him to. I don't know if that will happen. People are worried about that. Some people, because he should be limited to 2 terms, but they're trying to make changes to set up the conditions so he can run again. Don't be surprised if that happens. But this is not a conspiracy. This is in front of you, right in front of your face. He's setting this up. It's happened right now. He's already at the top of the Board of Peace. He's naming everything and anything and everything is named after him. He's reshaping Washington, tearing down, part of the White House to put up this grand ballroom that will memorialize himself. This is the stuff that, I'm sorry to tell you, but that's what dictators do. But what of Canada? Canada is so different. We're not that, at least not that I can tell. They accuse us of being that. They twist words, throw false accusations. And they say Canada isn't a real place, but it is a real place. And there are things that define us, make us distinct from the U.S. Case in point, because I've been looking at all of the video looping, that art, I've been thinking of the Group of Seven. Like, what is it about, what are the things about Canada that make us different? It's the people, but it's also the culture. It's what things bind us together. Now, this is a little bit, this isn't like totally current. This is a postmodernist, post-impressionist kind of art, the Group of Seven. This is the Art Gallery of Ontario website. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Group of Seven. Do you know anything about them? Did you learn about them in school? Group of Seven. Sometimes known as the Algonquin School, the Group of Seven was a group of Canadian landscape painters from 1920 to 33, originally consisting of Franklin Carmichael, Lauren Harris, A.Y. Jackson, Frank Johnston, Arthur Lismer, J.E.H. MacDonald, Frederick Varley, A.J. Casson, Edwin Holgate, Lemoyne Fitzgerald. 2 others commonly associated with the group, Tom Thompson and Emily Carr. Wait a minute, that's not 7. See, they're so different. The Group of 7 is more than that. Two artists commonly associated, Tom Thompson and Emily Carr, not actually members, but they died before its official transformation, Thompson, and had a significant influence on the group. In an essay, Harris wrote that Thompson was a part of the movement before we pinned a label on it. Thompson's paintings, The West Wind and The Jack Pine, are 2 of the group's most iconic pieces. Emily Carr was also closely associated with the group, though never an official member, believing that a distinct Canadian art could be developed through direct contact with nature. The group is best known for its paintings inspired by the Canadian landscape and initiated the first major Canadian national art movement. And by the early 1930s, the group's art was popular all around the world. Impressionists, beyond Impressionism though, each one of the artists, a distinct artist, their own style, and yet it all ties together. And they made something distinctly Canadian. Going to share some of their paintings with you at the end of the program. And for the grand finale, you have to wait for just a moment because I'm going to take a quick break, come back, and then we'll get into the home stretch.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So yeah, my brother is an artist, and every time I see him, he drags me off to an art gallery someplace. And when I was going through school, we would often go to art galleries on field trips, elementary school and high school, and left an impression on me. But boy, I have a greater appreciation for all of that tonight, especially the group of 7. Thought about it a lot overnight. And yes, it all ties into Kate Smith, the fat lady singing, paganism, Charlie Kirk. See, I think about all of this, and it's like, what is, when I look at the group of 7 paintings, it is a form of impressionism because it's like, what impression does it make on you? When I look at the landscapes, they're clearly landscapes. They're trees and they're mountains. But they are more than that. It's about what the artist takes away from it and their impression of it. They're trying to show you the way that they are viewing it. It may not look like, the colors may not be exactly what they appear to be in nature, but then nothing really is. Every eye sees things differently. This is the difference between like a realism or a realist and a liberal. The difference between political realism and modernism or postmodernism or even post-impressionism. It's but I'll point out what I think is the big mistake that we as a society have been making. Maybe I should bring up some pictures. I'll just Google this and show you some of these paintings. This is about Canada. See, look at any of these. None of these this is not realism. They're not painting a picture to try to create a photograph. If you want something completely realistic, go take a photo. But then even if you're shooting a photograph, it doesn't see things the same way as the human eye does. One camera will take a slightly different picture than another camera. The colors from one camera to another will be slightly different. You can set things in your camera. You can adjust the settings to capture an image in a camera in different ways. It depends on the speed of the film you use, if you're shooting film, if you're shooting digitally, your aperture, shutter speed. ISO sensitivities. When I shoot photography, I think of it as painting with light. Or when I shoot videography, I think of it as painting with light. Here they're using literal paint on canvas, and they would go out into nature, and the mountains would be their models, or the trees and the landscape. The objective was not to paint every leaf and make it look as crisp and as clean and as realistic as possible. It was to look at that and take something more from it. Isolate the ideas, the inspiration that you got from it, the impression that it would leave on the artist, and then put that on the canvas to share with other people. Something more, something that came not just from what's before you to see visually through your own eyes, but to ingest that, interpret it, and put that on the canvas and say, this is what I'm seeing. What does this mean to you? And then as you look at it, as an individual, you can take something more from that and get inspiration and ask questions about the deepest kinds of questions about our very existence. And this is important to Canada. This is Canada. This is part of our heritage, art, culture. This is partly what defines us, because this is what has surrounded us. This was the earliest days of our nation state. Not so very long ago. This is why Donald Trump hates what we are. Because it's an expression of freedom, individualism, which they reject. They'll say otherwise, but they are deceiving us. Because by default, the ideology which rejects classical liberalism and embraces this rigid way of thinking is by default authoritarian. You must think this way. You can't criticize Donald Trump. You have TDS. You are insane if you think Donald Trump is insane. If you think that the man who posted a video of a woman being beaten to death with a hammer, her skull crushed, killed in a parking lot, unedited. If you think there's something wrong with that, you're insane. You have TDS. He literally can go out into the middle of a street, shoot somebody, and people will still support him. Does that seem sane? He literally posts online that he's going to genocide an entire society. Then days later denies that he was ever going to do it. Says he'd never use nukes, but he just completely... But if you call it out, you have TDS, you're insane, you need help. So I'm told. Making people question their own sanity and even their own reality through all of this. Then I got to thinking again about Kash Patel and his "See You in Valhalla." And the fat lady singing. What's that from? That is from Wagner opera. Twilight of the Gods. Are you familiar? I've never been a big opera fan. Can't say that I'm an expert, but I know that it is Wagner. Fourth opera in a 4-part series. It's the final part. It's this huge, exciting story, which was called The Ring of the Nibelung. It's German, so I'll butcher the language. But it's this story. It's like a giant fairy tale with gods and heroes and dragons and magic. And long ago, this powerful magic ring was made of what else in the Donald? Of course, from stolen gold. Whoever owns the ring or has the ring, it gives them great power, but it also brings a terrible curse. This is the story of the Twilight of the Gods. So the story now ends with this hero, Siegfried, and the warrior goddess, Brunhilde. Brunhilde? What are you talking about, Rick? No, not this. Let me share. You know who I'm talking about? Brunhilde? No, not this. Not Broomhilde. Brunhilde. This is like the fat lady singing at the end of the opera. Not Broomhilde, the comic strip character, which I grew up reading in the local newspaper every day. Brunhilde. This is the fat lady who comes out at the end and sings with, it's got the Viking helmet on with the horns on the top and all of that. All over the top, right? That everybody loves, not mocks, embraces, loves. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. And this whole thing with Valhalla, okay, this is where the Kash Patel, Charlie Kirk stuff ties in. This paganistic stuff. Isn't it weird, too, that the other guy's talking about witches tonight? But anyway. So the adventure begins again, all right? So Siegfried and Brunhilde are deeply in love. They promise to stay true to each other forever and ever and ever. And then Siegfried, he decides to go on new adventures. So he sails down the river to the land of, I don't know what they call it, Gibbechungs, I think, something like that, and where a king named Gunther lives. And he's with his sister Gutrun and their half-brother Hagen. And Hagen is this sneaky dude, and he wants the magic ring for himself. So he gives Siegfried a magic potion that makes him forget all about Brunhilde, the woman that he has sworn to love forever. And it's my understanding, too, that Brunhilde is the daughter of the king of gods. Correct me if I'm wrong. Not an expert, but that's how I know the story. So suddenly then, Siegfried thinks that he is in love with Gutrun instead, that two-timer. So to win Gunther's friendship, Siegfried agrees to then help the king marry Brunhilde or something like that. Maybe different tellings of the story. But I think Brunhilde is the daughter of the King of Kings. Anyway, this is magic trick. Siegfried changes his appearance to look like Gunther, and then he rides through fire and then defeats Brunhilde and brings her back as Gunther's bride. But then Brunhilde is shocked and angry when she sees the real Siegfried, her main squeeze, the man that said that he was going to love her forever, but then he's acting like, hey, I don't even know who you are, baby. And she realizes that she's been tricked. And Hagen then sees his chance and makes a plan to kill Siegfried. It's a tragedy. See, it's all about the gold, man. Corrupts everybody, gets everybody fighting. So during a hunt, Hagen stabs Siegfried in the back. And then as Siegfried dies, he remembers his true love for Brunhilde, not Broomhilde, Brunhilde, get it straight. His death is very sad. There's even a big, powerful funeral march played by the orchestra. And Brunhilde is heartbroken, but she's also very wise. Well, you know, the king dude. She understands that the magic ring must go back to the river where it belongs because it came from the bottom of a river. The River Rhine, I believe, where what had been protected. But anyway, she lights this huge fire, okay, and rides her horse into the flames. Well, that they're burning, like they're cremating Siegfried's body in the big pyre. And then she gets on Siegfried's horse, I think it's the Valkyries, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, who are warriors, and they bring Siegfried's steed to have for Brunhilde to ride, and she carries the ring and she rides into the flames with oh, well, I think they're different tellings. I think the body's already in the flames, on fire. Some say she might carry the body, but I think the flame, for me, the body's in the fire. Depends on how you want to do it in the theater. Anyway, she rides into the flames, and then the fire spreads, and it goes way up into the sky, and it burns down, or it could be, depending on the telling of the story, it might be just, you know, Valhalla, the town, whatever on earth, but I think it's up in the sky, representing a final resting place for fallen warriors who would go there. I'm a little off track. They'd go there to as spirit warriors, the highest place of honor, Viking warriors, and they'd fight all day with each other for fun, beat the shit out of each other, and then at night they would heal up, and then they'd feast and party down, and then they do it all over again the next day, just because they love to fight. That sounds like living hell to me, but okay, that's what their version of paradise was, I guess. So anyway, she rides into the flames, they shoot up into the sky, and it destroys Valhalla. All the gods that live up there, by the way, these pagan gods, including, as I understand it, the father of Brunhilde, who is the king of kings, who's up there as well. But it burns the whole place up, kills all the gods. There's no redemption for them. Brunhilde's gone, Siegfried's gone, total tragedy. It's very, very sad. The kingdom of Valhalla is burned to crispy critters, and they're all done. And then the river floods, and the old god's power comes to an end, and the curse of the ring is finally broken, allowing, though, for everything to be cleansed by the water, and a new, better world can now begin. A big reset. King of Kings, gold, golden ring, false idols, Valhalla, Kash Patel, Charlie Kirk. And this whole story at the end, this chapter portrayed on stage in the grandest of ways, huge finale, the likes of which humanity had never seen before, quite possibly Wagner's greatest composition, greatest achievement ever, huge hit that endures even today. And even if you don't love opera, even if you detest it, tonight you're going to love it. Because now you understand my version of the Twilight of the Gods story. So I went a-searching, and I found it for you, all you Mavericks out there, a really beautiful copy of the grand finale at the very end of Twilight of the Gods. This one is from 1903. And Just let me get all the background here. I'm going to look it up so I get it right. So I'll get you the information on the performer. Yeah, so, yeah, that's what it is. I put this all together earlier today, and what I've done is I've taken a group of 7 paintings and I put it with it. 1903 Metropolitan Opera. The singer is Lillian Nordica. And this is considered one of the most powerful performances ever. This is so old that it's on one of the old wax cylinders. This predates vinyl records by far. It also to those happening right around the time when we're getting into the era of modernism and then later postmodernism, and how you interpret it and you interpret the world. But and this is where I was going to say, I promised you that I would tell you where I think that we've gone wrong with this wokeism and progressivism. See, when I look at, say, the Tom Thompson stuff or any of the group of 7 paintings, it's what you take from it personally. But when I look at it, some people might say, well, that doesn't look very real. That's the point. But when I look at it, it's clearly a forest, or that's clearly a pine tree. That's clearly a mountain. That is what it is. But there are many elements to things that are real. Many things make up a thing that is real. Anything made of mass, especially something as complex as a mountain or a tree or a cat or a dog or a chicken or a country. How do you see it? What is it? Hard to define, isn't it? Really. Like, what is a tree? Well, it's pine needles. No, it's wood. It's bark. It's roots. It's all of those things. But then if you dig deeper and you start getting down into the nitty-gritty, it's molecules, it's atoms, it's protons, cells making up my body. So what am I? I'm all of those things. So too is a country. It's a living, breathing, evolving thing. And each one is unique. Countries are the most complex of things, the most complex of constructs, things that simply come from our minds, things we choose to believe in. They exist because we support them collectively as individuals. But when I look at these images, they are clearly trees. The people who go too far are the people who say, no, I don't see a tree. I see a tractor. That's a tractor. Now, you could look up at the clouds and you could say, those clouds are making the pattern and they look like a tractor in the sky. But it looks like, not that it is. What's going on out there right now is kind of insane on both sides. On the one side, you have people who take it too far, and I really don't care myself. If you want to go believe that you are a mix master, beater blender, kitchen device, and that's what's in your head, have at it, man. Like, just leave me out of it. Like, go ahead. Okay, I think you're crazy, but it's not for me to say. As long as you're not doing harm to yourself or others, then I really don't give a damn. If you want to dress up in a giant penis costume, and by the way, I believe the lady that did that down in the States, we talked about that, I forgot to mention it earlier, acquitted in court, exonerated. She was protesting her rights were upheld in the United States. I can't remember all the details. I'd have to go look them up. But the case was kicked out of court today, just so you know. All right. But I don't think she believes she's a giant penis. Oh my God, that was a funny story. Hung Cao. It's just too much. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Oh, because I'm not supposed to believe it. That's the whole point. They keep on throwing so much crap and weird stuff at us that it's all about confusing us, especially as they try to take over our country. They're making us question everything. And it's not just about taking over our country. It's about establishing this new reordered world, or whatever you want to call it. It's a political movement supported, underpinned with a pretty radical ideology masquerading as a freedom movement, as something based in liberty to defend freedom in the States, something else again in Russia, and rebranded as something else again, I think, in China, where it's communism, but it sure as hell isn't freedom. They're using deception through information warfare to warp our minds. The president is standing up every day saying contradictory things that completely confuse everyone. And it's creating these information loops where if you listen to the stuff, it will drive you crazy after a while, if you let it. I'm resisting. I'm trying to hold on to my sanity, but I can clearly see that there is something wrong out there in the world with people in general today, especially when they're just triggered by what I say on the program and they start getting out the knives to take a pound of flesh and scream TDS in conversations because they think that maybe I am. Maybe I am. But I stand in front of the mirror every day. I ask myself, are you okay? Did you really hear that? Did they really appoint Hung Cao? Is that real? Am I here? Is that real? Is it? Hello? Hung Cao, are you there? I'm okay. They're not okay. I think it's ludicrous. That makes more sense. Okay? Broomhilda. Give me back Broomhilda. Broomhilda was at the height of her popularity when the world was just a little bit more sane. A little, not a lot, a little. I'll take the group of 7 though. I don't want to have to dress in a gray jumpsuit. I don't want to be isolated. I don't think that Donald Trump wants to protect or keep the immigrants out. I think he wants to lock you all in. That's what I think when he's closing down the borders. It's about keeping us all locked in, not preventing people from getting in. In the end, he's making a giant prison because they're turning the place into a mind prison right now. And they have so many people working to destroy themselves, cheering for their own destruction because they've got it all twisted around. They claim they're for freedom while they reject individuality, telling you that, nope, see, this is the thing. They don't want to see that. One religion, Christianity, probably not Catholicism. They don't really like that either. But they want photographs. They don't want this. That's why. That's the big issue they have with Canada right there. Yes, sometimes they take it too far because a tree is a tree is a tree. We need to have that collectively so that we can communicate with each other properly. we all agree that's a tree. Now, you can paint it any color you want and make it look cool, and we can start to talk about ideas in the abstract and find new reality in that. But at the end of the day, it's still a tree. And Charlie Kirk, if he went to Valhalla, it doesn't even make sense. Why would you want to go to a place? Now, the opera, different than some other versions of the story, but Wagner has the place burned to a crisp so that it doesn't come back. In the opera, they're all toast. And it makes no sense, really, for Kash Patel to have said that, because it's a paganistic thing. It is blasphemous for a Christian. That's not heaven. A Christian would know that. It's just more deception. Because I think it's more about the gold than the God. Time for the fat lady. Time to honor her and applaud. But even after she sings, and even after Valhalla is burned to nothingness tonight, tomorrow, the sun will rise again, the world will be anew, the light will fill the darkness. Let's go back to 1903, Metropolitan Opera House. After the sun comes up, I'll be out there getting ready for tomorrow night's program at 7 p.m. Eastern on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.